She walked into the delivery room ready to give birth alone, but when the doctor took off his mask, it was her billionaire ex, and what he did next left everyone speechless. Pause. Before we begin this heart-touching story, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell icon, because you don't want to miss stories that touch your heart like this one. Wait, you're my doctor? Mia's voice cracked as she clutched her round belly, her heart hammering faster than the heart monitor beside her bed. For a second, she thought she was hallucinating, that the pain of labor had tricked her mind into seeing ghosts from her past. But no, he was real. Standing there in a crisp white coat, a stethoscope draped around his neck like it had always belonged there, was Ethan Cole, the man who had once promised to love her forever, the man who disappeared 5 years ago without saying goodbye, the man she had tried and failed to forget. The bright fluorescent lights of the hospital room flickered faintly above them, but her focus was locked on him, his face, his eyes, the disbelief written across his features. He looked older now, more chiseled, his jaw tight, and his expression controlled. But beneath that professional calm was something else, shock, maybe even regret. He blinked twice before speaking. "Mia," he whispered, his voice almost lost under the beeping machines. She couldn't breathe. She wanted to say something, anything, but all she managed was a trembling. What are you doing here?" Ethan stepped closer, his eyes scanning the monitors, her the chart clipped at the foot of her bed. "I'm your attending doctor," he said quietly, as if trying to convince himself. Her stomach dropped. Out of all the doctors in this hospital, out of all the rooms she could have been assigned to tonight, it had to be him. Thunder rolled outside, the rain lashing against the hospital windows. The storm mirrored the chaos inside her chest. Mia gripped the blanket tighter. "You're my doctor?" she repeated, disbelief and anger mixing in her voice. "No, that's not possible. There has to be someone else." "There isn't," he interrupted gently, his tone low, careful, like he was afraid she'd break. "The on-call doctor was delayed because of the storm. I was next on rotation." She couldn't stop staring at him. The man she once loved, the man she had trusted with her heart, was now standing inches away, wearing the very symbol of authority and control that once drew her to him. But now, it only made her feel small, exposed, vulnerable, and pregnant. He noticed the way her hand protectively cupped her belly, and something flickered in his eyes, confusion, curiosity, and something else, something deeper. "How far along are you?" he asked softly. Mia looked away. "It doesn't matter. You don't have to do this. Just find someone else." "I can't," he said, his voice firm now, professional again. "You're already in active labor. The baby's coming soon." The words hit her like a jolt. The pain in her abdomen surged again, stronger this time. She groaned, clutching her stomach. Ethan moved closer instinctively, his hand reaching out to support her, but she jerked away. "Don't," she hissed through clenched teeth. "Don't touch me." He froze, guilt flashing across his face. For a long second, the only sounds in the room were her ragged breathing and the rhythmic beeping of the fetal monitor. Ethan exhaled slowly. "Look, I know this is awkward," he said, forcing the word out like it barely scratched the surface of what they both felt. "But right now, my job is to make sure you and your baby are safe. Whatever's between us, we'll talk later." "Talk?" Mia gave a bitter laugh that quickly turned into a wince. "You think we have anything left to talk about?" He didn't answer. His eyes softened, just for a moment, before he looked down at her chart again. "Your contractions are close together. You'll be meeting your baby soon." Mia's chest tightened. Her baby. The one she'd carried through every lonely night, every double shift, every tearful moment when she thought she couldn't do it alone. The irony was unbearable. The man who had left her alone to face this life was now the one delivering her child into the world. The nurse entered briefly, adjusting the drip, clearly sensing the tension but saying nothing. The storm outside grew louder, wind howling through the cracks of the old hospital windows. When the nurse left, silence filled the room again. Ethan lingered near the bed, his hands in his coat pockets, his eyes restless. Finally, he spoke, quieter this time. "You look different." Mia shot him a glare. 5 years will do that to you. He nodded slowly, his jaw tightening. I tried to find you once. She scoffed. Don't lie. You disappeared, Ethan. No calls. No letters. Nothing. You left me like I didn't matter. Ethan opened his mouth, then stopped. His throat bobbed as he swallowed whatever excuse he'd been about to give. Another contraction hit, hard. Mia groaned, biting her lip as tears welled up. Ethan immediately moved to her side, instinct taking over. Breathe, he said softly, his voice steady now. In through your nose, out through your mouth. You've got this. His words, the same tone he used to calm her years ago when she was scared, hit her harder than the pain. She wanted to push him away, to scream, to hate him, but her body betrayed her. She needed his help. He guided her breathing, wiped the sweat from her forehead, his touch gentle yet sure. And for a moment, just one fleeting moment, it felt like the world had rewound to a time when they were still them. When the contraction eased, she turned her face away, refusing to meet his eyes. Why are you doing this? She whispered. Why are you being so kind? You don't get to act like you care now. Ethan's hand paused mid-motion. His voice was low, almost trembling. Because I never stopped caring, Mia. Her breath caught. Before she could respond, the monitor beeped rapidly, pulling Ethan's attention. He snapped back into doctor mode. Your dilation's increasing fast, he said. We need to prep for delivery. As the nurses rushed back in, Mia felt her chest tighten with something far more painful than contractions memories. 5 years ago, he'd walked away without a goodbye. Tonight, fate had dragged him back into her life, at the exact moment she was about to bring new life into the world. And as she looked at him, his steady hands, his furrowed brow, that same stubborn kindness in his eyes, she couldn't help but wonder, was this just a coincidence, or destiny finally forcing them to face what they'd both tried to forget? Before the pain, before the heartbreak, there was love, a love that felt bigger than the world. Mia could still remember the way Ethan used to look at her, like she was the only person in the room, the only heartbeat that mattered. They were young, unstoppable, and so sure that love could conquer anything. He was Ethan Cole, the charming, confident son of a billionaire hospital owner. A man born into privilege, into expectations, into a future that was already written for him. She was Mia Parker, a nurse who believed in hard work, long hours, and small miracles. She wasn't born with wealth, but she had something else, kindness, courage, and a dream of making a difference. They met in the hospital where she worked. He had come to shadow his father's surgeons, fresh from finishing med school, brilliant, confident, but not yet hardened by the world. Mia had been assigned to assist that day, rushing between patients and paperwork when Ethan first saw her. He watched her from across the hall, the way she comforted a scared child, how her smile softened the air around her. She didn't notice him at first, too busy being the quiet hero that she was. Later that day, he approached her at the nurse's station. You're good with people, he'd said, leaning casually against the counter. She raised an eyebrow. And you're good at standing around while others work. He laughed, a deep, warm sound that caught her off guard. Touché. Maybe you can teach me a thing or two. That was how it started, with teasing, late-night coffee breaks, and quiet conversations in hospital corridors. They'd sit on the rooftop after shifts, watching the city lights flicker below them, sharing dreams of saving lives and making a difference. Mia wanted to open a free clinic someday. Ethan wanted to prove he could be more than just his father's legacy. They were two people from different worlds, bound by a love that felt impossible but irresistible. Soon, those stolen moments turned into something real. Dinners after shifts, secret weekends away, plans whispered under stars. He called her Sunshine because she made the hospital feel less cold. She called him Dreamer because he made her believe anything was possible. And for a while it was perfect. Until reality came crashing in. Ethan's family found out. The Coles were old money, powerful, proud, and ruthless when it came to protecting their image. His father, Richard Cole, made his stance clear. She's a nurse, Ethan. A good one, I'm sure. But she's not for you. You're a Cole. You'll marry someone from your world, not a girl who spends her days cleaning wounds. Ethan had tried to fight it. He told them he loved her. He told them she wasn't just a nurse. But his father wasn't listening. His mother cried, saying it was just a phase. And soon after, they dangled the one thing Ethan couldn't refuse: a place in a prestigious international medical program in London. It was his dream, his ticket to independence. But it came with a price, leaving Mia behind. "I'll come back for you," he'd promised, holding her close that last night before his flight. His words trembled against her skin. "Just 1 year. Then I'll return, and we'll have the life we always talked about." She believed him, because when Ethan said something, he meant it, until he didn't. At first, they wrote letters every week. Long, handwritten pages filled with love, laughter, and plans for the future. She'd wait by the mailbox every evening, heart fluttering whenever she saw his handwriting. But then the letters stopped. 1 week passed, then 2, then a month. She tried calling, but his number had been disconnected. She sent emails that bounced back. She even tried contacting his family. No response. It was as if he'd vanished from the earth. And that's when she found out, 2 weeks later, that she was pregnant. Mia sat on the edge of her small apartment bed, the pregnancy test trembling in her hand. The reality hit her like a storm. She was alone. No money. No family to turn to. Just the faint memory of a man who once promised forever. She wrote one last letter to Ethan, telling him everything. She never got an answer. His family had cut her off completely, ensuring her messages never reached him. And so, Mia did what she had to do. She worked double shifts, often skipping meals, just to save enough for doctor visits. She sold her jewelry, her old textbooks, anything that could buy diapers or formula. She gave birth to a baby girl, Emma, in the same hospital where she and Ethan had once fallen in love. She held her daughter close, whispered, "You're my reason now," and promised that no matter what, she'd give her the life she deserved. But behind every smile, every lullaby, there was a wound that never healed. Ethan had left, or so she thought. Years passed. Mia became stronger, more independent. She worked nights, studied on weekends, and raised Emma with every ounce of love in her heart. She told herself she was over him, that she'd moved on, until the night fate brought him back. 5 years later, she walked into that same hospital, pregnant again, in labor alone, never imagining that the man waiting to deliver her baby would be him. Ethan Cole, the man who broke her heart, the man who never knew about their first child. And as he stood over her hospital bed, confusion and recognition written all over his face, Mia realized the cruel twist of fate he still didn't know. The baby she was about to bring into the world wasn't just another patient's child. It was his. Her chest tightened as she watched him check her chart, calm and professional, unaware that the tiny life about to enter the world carried his blood. The universe had a dark sense of humor. It had taken 5 long years to bring him back into her life, not with love or forgiveness, but with labor pains and secrets. And as lightning cracked outside and thunder shook the windows, Mia knew this night would change everything. Forever. Ethan's hands trembled. For a man known for saving lives without flinching, he suddenly couldn't move. The steady rhythm of the heart monitor seemed to fade, replaced by the sound of his own heartbeat, wild, uneven, breaking through the walls he'd built for years. Mia held the newborn against her chest, tears spilling freely down her cheeks. The baby, small, perfect, with a tuft of dark hair and eyes that mirrored Ethan's, blinked up at him, unaware that her very existence had just shattered a billionaire's world. "Yours," Mia whispered again, her voice barely audible over the hum of the machines. Ethan stumbled back a step, his white coat brushing against the counter. His throat tightened. "Mia, what are you saying?" Her fingers brushed the baby's soft cheek. "I tried to tell you, Ethan. I tried so many times. But your family." She choked, unable to continue. He took a shaky breath. "My family." She looked up at him, eyes full of pain. "They made sure I could never reach you. Every message, every letter gone. I thought you didn't care. I thought you left me because I wasn't good enough." Ethan's face paled. The weight of her words sank deep, twisting the knife of guilt in his chest. He remembered that year, his father's control, The endless training, the silence from home. He thought Mia had moved on, that she'd chosen to forget him. He never knew the truth. He ran a trembling hand through his hair, disbelief clouding his features. Mia, I never got your letters. Not one. I thought you stopped writing. She let out a broken laugh. Of course you did. That's what your father wanted. He made sure the poor nurse disappeared before she could ruin your perfect future. Her voice cracked on the last word, and for the first time in years, Ethan saw the pain behind her strength. He moved closer, hesitant, afraid to make it worse. I swear to you, I didn't know. If I'd known. Mia looked at him sharply. If you'd known what, Ethan? Would you have come back? Would you have left your shiny new life for me and a baby you didn't plan for? The silence that followed was suffocating. He wanted to answer, to promise her he would have done anything. But 5 years of absence couldn't be erased with one breath. The nurse quietly left the room, sensing this was more than just a routine delivery. The door clicked shut, leaving them alone, 2 broken hearts and one tiny miracle between them. Ethan stared at the baby, his baby. The curve of her nose, the tiny fists, the soft, rhythmic breaths. Everything about her was a reflection of him and Mia. A piece of a love he thought he'd lost forever. What's her name? He asked quietly. Mia hesitated, her eyes softening. Emma. He smiled faintly, though pain shimmered beneath it. Emma, it's beautiful. For a moment, he just stood there, unable to tear his gaze away. Then, slowly, as if afraid she'd vanish, he reached out. May I? Mia looked at him, really looked. The same man who had once made her laugh until she cried was now trembling like a stranger. But in his eyes she saw something raw, something real. Not arrogance, not wealth, but regret. She nodded. He carefully lifted the baby into his arms, holding her close for the first time. His heart ached with something he couldn't name. Emma's tiny hand curled around his finger, and just like that, the billionaire doctor who once thought he had everything realized he'd been missing the most important thing of all. His child. He swallowed hard, whispering more to himself than to anyone else. She's perfect. Mia wiped her eyes. She's strong, just like her father. He looked up sharply. Don't say that unless you mean it. I do, she said softly. But I also mean this. You weren't there, Ethan. I went through every pain, every sleepless night, every hospital bill alone. You can't just walk back in and expect to fix everything. He nodded slowly. I know, and I don't expect forgiveness overnight. But please, let me be part of her life. Let me try. Mia's lips quivered. She'd dreamed of this moment 1,000 times, of him finding out, of him finally caring. But the reality of it scared her more than she'd imagined. How do I trust you again? She whispered. Ethan set the baby gently back in her arms and sat beside her bed. His voice was low, filled with remorse. I don't have the right to ask you for trust, but I can earn it. I'll show up. Every day. I'll prove that I'm not the man who left. The sincerity in his tone made her chest ache. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the room in pale blue light. The storm still raged, but inside, something had shifted, a fragile truce, a spark of the love that once burned so bright. Ethan leaned forward slightly, his eyes locked on hers. I'm sorry, Mia. For everything. For leaving. For not fighting harder. For not knowing. I lost you once. I won't make that mistake again. Mia blinked away her tears, unsure whether to believe him. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face, a simple, tender gesture that brought back a flood of memories. The rooftop nights, the laughter, the promises. She looked down at Emma, her tiny heartbeat steady against her chest. Maybe, just maybe, fate was giving them a second chance. The intercom buzzed, pulling them back to reality. Another doctor was paging Ethan for an emergency. He hesitated at the door, glancing back. I'll be back first thing in the morning. I promise. This time, she didn't stop him. When he was gone, Mia held Emma close, whispering softly to her sleeping baby. Your daddy's here now, sweetheart. I don't know what happens next, but maybe this time, it'll be different. Outside, the storm finally began to fade. And in that quiet hospital room, hope, fragile but real, was born alongside the little girl who had just changed everything. For a long moment, the only sound in the room was the quiet hum of the machines. The baby slept peacefully between them, the calm in the middle of their storm. Ethan's words hung in the air like thunder that refused to fade. "I'm stepping down," he said again, his tone steady but raw, effective immediately. Mia's eyes widened. "Ethan, do you realize what that means? Your entire career, your reputation." "I know exactly what it means," he interrupted softly. "It means I'm finally doing something right." He placed the contract on the table beside her bed. His official resignation from Grant Memorial Hospital. The ink was still fresh, the decision irreversible. Mia stared at it, then at him. She could barely comprehend what she was seeing. The man she once knew, proud, untouchable, dedicated to his empire, was gone. In his place stood someone stripped of everything but truth. "Why now?" she whispered, her voice cracking. "After all these years?" Ethan exhaled, his gaze fixed on the floor. "Because when I saw her, when I held her for the first time, everything I thought mattered just fell apart. The board meetings, the money, the titles, none of it means anything if I can't look my daughter in the eye." He paused, emotion rising in his throat. "Mia, I can't go back and hold her when she took her first steps. I can't be there for her first words. But I can be here now. I can be the man you both needed all along." Mia's hands tightened around the blanket. "And what about when it gets hard? When things aren't perfect? Are you going to walk away again?" Ethan shook his head, eyes glassy. "Not this time. I walked away once, and it destroyed everything I loved. I won't make that mistake again." He stepped closer, kneeling beside the bed. The look in his eyes wasn't the confidence of a billionaire. It was the vulnerability of a man finally facing his own failures. "I've spent my whole life fixing people," he said quietly, "saving strangers, performing surgeries that made headlines. But the one thing I broke, I never tried to fix. That's on me." Mia's throat ached. She wanted to believe him, but pain doesn't disappear that easily. "You can't just sign a paper and undo 5 years, Ethan," she said, her voice trembling. "You can't erase the nights I cried myself to sleep, wondering if you ever thought about me, wondering if our child would ever know her father." He nodded slowly, guilt shadowing his face. "You're right. I can't erase it, but I can make sure you never feel that alone again." He reached for her hand, hesitating, as if waiting for permission, and when she didn't pull away, he gently placed it over their baby's chest. "Feel that," he whispered. "That heartbeat. It's ours, Mia. It's not just yours to protect anymore. It's mine too." Her breath hitched. His words sank into the cracks she'd built around her heart, soft and steady like a promise she didn't know she still wanted to hear. She looked at him, not the billionaire in the headlines, not the doctor whose hands could heal the world, but the man who once laughed with her under the stars, who once dreamed of forever. Her heart whispered something she wasn't ready to admit out loud. "He's still in there." Ethan stayed kneeling, his hand still holding hers. "You once told me love isn't about grand gestures. It's about showing up. So I'm showing up, every day, every moment, for both of you. I'll cook, I'll clean, I'll do midnight diaper runs, whatever it takes." Mia laughed through her tears. "You, the Ethan Cole, doing diaper duty?" He smiled faintly, a flicker of their old spark in his eyes. "I'll learn. I'm a fast learner, remember?" That laugh, small and tired but real, was enough to melt something inside her. For the first time since he'd walked in that night, the air between them felt lighter. Ethan stood, brushing his hands against his coat, and glanced toward the crib beside the bed. "She deserves more than my money, Mia. She deserves my time, my heart, my name." Mia froze. "Your name?" He nodded slowly. "Emma Cole, if you'll allow it." Her lips parted, surprise washing over her. "You really mean that?" He nodded again, eyes earnest. "I missed every first, but I want to be there for everything that comes next. Her birthdays, her first day of school, her dreams. I want her to know her father isn't just a name in a file." Mia's heart swelled with emotion. She had imagined this moment so many times, but never like this, never with the same raw honesty. "You don't owe me anything, Ethan," she said softly. But if you mean this, if you really want to be in her life, you'll have to prove it. He smiled gently. Then I'll spend the rest of my life proving it. For a long moment, they just stood there in silence, the storm outside finally fading into a drizzle. A faint rainbow of morning light spilled through the blinds, casting a warm glow across the room. Ethan looked down at the sleeping baby, his voice almost a whisper. You know, I thought I had everything. The house, the career, the name. But it turns out, everything I ever wanted was right here all along. Mia's eyes shimmered with tears again, but this time, they weren't just from pain. There was something softer. Hope. Ethan, she whispered. He met her gaze. Yeah, you can hold her again if you want. He didn't need to be told twice. He sat down, gently scooping Emma into his arms, cradling her with the tenderness of a man holding the world's most precious secret. Mia watched them, the way Emma fit perfectly against his chest, the way his smile turned fragile and full. For the first time in 5 years, she felt the warmth of something she thought she'd lost forever. Family. Ethan looked up, his voice trembling but certain. I'm not leaving again, Mia. I promise. And this time, when he said it, she believed him. Weeks passed, and true to his word, Ethan never left her side. The hospital staff had never seen anything like it. The billionaire surgeon who once commanded an empire now spent his nights curled up in a chair beside a hospital bed, cradling a tiny newborn in his arms. His designer suits were replaced by wrinkled shirts, his expensive watch long forgotten as he learned to count time by the rhythm of his daughter's breaths. Every morning, he arrived before sunrise, coffee in one hand, a fresh breakfast for Mia in the other. He brought soft blankets, baby clothes, little trinkets that made her smile. And one day, he walked in with a small velvet box, not for jewelry, but a music box. When he opened it, the familiar melody filled the room, the same song they used to dance to Under the Stars all those years ago. Mia froze. Her eyes filled instantly with tears. You remembered. Ethan smiled softly. How could I forget? You said it sounded like forever. For a moment, they stood there, not as a billionaire and a nurse, not as ex-lovers torn apart by life, but as two souls who had found their way back through the chaos. The nurses whispered behind the glass walls about the transformation no one could explain. The great Ethan Cole once said with a grin, traded boardrooms for bedtime stories. And it was true. The man who once chased power now chased tiny giggles and sleepy smiles. One night, Mia woke up to the soft sound of humming. She turned her head and saw Ethan, sitting in the chair, the baby asleep on his chest, his head tilted back, his hair messy, his voice barely a whisper as he sang a lullaby. He didn't even notice her watching. He looked peaceful, human, real. Mia pressed her hand to her mouth, a tear slipping down her cheek. Maybe people could change. Maybe love wasn't lost forever, just waiting for the right moment to return. By the time Mia and Emma were discharged, Ethan had already made arrangements, not grand gestures or mansions, but something simple, something real. A small seaside house on the edge of a quiet town. Waves crashed softly against the shore, seagulls danced in the sky, and the salty air carried peace, something Mia hadn't felt in years. This is for us? She asked when they arrived, her voice trembling. Ethan nodded. For all of us. No staff, no meetings, no cameras. Just home. Mia walked through the little house, white curtains fluttering in the sea breeze, photos already framed on the mantel. One of her and the baby at the hospital, another of Ethan holding Emma, eyes shining with pride. It felt unreal, like stepping into a dream she never dared to have. Ethan walked up behind her and whispered, I know I can't erase the past, but maybe we can start a new chapter. Mia turned to him, emotion thick in her throat. You already did. In the months that followed, something beautiful bloomed. Ethan didn't return to his high-paying hospital position. Instead, he opened a small free clinic by the ocean, where he offered medical care to single mothers, women like Mia, who had struggled alone. He named it the Emma Foundation. At first, Mia was shocked. You did this for me. He smiled. For both of you. Because no woman should ever have to face what you did. Not while I have the power to help. The clinic became a safe haven for women who had nowhere else to go. Ethan worked there every day, not as a CEO or a surgeon, but as a man rebuilding his purpose. And Mia stood beside him, not as someone saved, but as an equal partner in the mission. Together, they turned heartbreak into hope. One quiet evening, the sky painted in shades of pink and gold, Ethan stood by the nursery window, gently rocking Emma to sleep. The ocean shimmered in the distance, and the cool breeze carried the faint sound of laughter from outside. Mia tending to her garden, humming softly. He looked down at his daughter's sleeping face and whispered, "I almost lost you both once. Never again." Mia appeared at the doorway, watching him. Her heart swelled at the sight. Ethan, barefoot in the glow of sunset, holding their little girl as if she was made of light. She leaned against the frame and smiled. "You're getting good at that." He turned, a small laugh escaping him. "She's got her mom's stubbornness. Won't sleep unless I hum the whole song." "Good," Mia teased. "Now you know what I've been dealing with." He chuckled, walking closer. Emma nestled in his arms. "You're stronger than anyone I know." "Maybe," she said softly, brushing a finger over the baby's cheek. "But I wouldn't have made it here without you." Their eyes met, and for a heartbeat, the years of distance, pain, and silence disappeared. What remained was love, quiet, deep, and steady. Ethan reached out and took her hand. "You gave me something money could never buy, Mia. A family. A second chance." Mia's eyes glistened. "And you gave me something I thought I'd lost forever, faith." That night, after Emma drifted to sleep, Ethan and Mia stood by the open window, listening to the waves. The moonlight painted everything silver, soft and still. "Do you ever think," Mia whispered, "that fate planned all of this?" Ethan smiled faintly. "If fate hadn't made me walk into that hospital room that night, I'd still be chasing things that don't matter." Mia leaned her head against his shoulder. "Guess even fate has a sense of humor." He chuckled, wrapping his arm around her. "Or maybe fate just wanted to remind us, sometimes, love doesn't leave. It just waits for the right moment to come home." Outside, the ocean whispered its endless song, the same rhythm that had guided them back to each other. In that little house by the sea, far from the noise, far from the pain, the billionaire and the nurse, the man and the woman, the father and the mother, finally found peace. And as the morning sun began to rise, a new melody filled their world, the laughter of their daughter, echoing like a promise that the best love stories don't end in heartbreak. They begin again. He once walked away from her, but this time he chose to stay, not just as a doctor, but as a father, a partner, and a man who finally understood love. If you believe in redemption, in forgiveness, and in love that never truly dies, like this video, subscribe, and tell us in the comments, would you forgive someone who broke your heart?